Hello everybody, welcome back to World of Cryptids, and today we have a fan submission from Agent Green on TikTok. Anyways, let's get into it. When I was 13 in middle school around 2007, my little brother and I lived in Lake Worth, Texas at the bottom of a massive hill apartment complex called Wildwood Branch. Even at the bottom of the hill complex, it was still a high platform surrounded on all sides by dense woods. There was already an air of high strangeness going on in the area, as there had been sightings of UFOs and the Lake Worth Goat Man, which is unimportant for now. My brother and I loved frequenting the woods in and around the area. It was a great place for the kids to explore. There came a day, though, that we stopped going into the woods out of fear. That was the day when my brother and I were messing around outside in the parking lot and we heard a screech. It sounded strangely human, but when we looked for the source, we saw this massive eagle with black feathers on its body and wings, but white feathers on its head, and these little ears pointing up on each side of its head as it glided down the hill. Literally the biggest bird I've ever seen as it went over our heads. The size of its body invoked in our mind's eyes and the size and proportions of a fighter jet, which I had seen earlier in that year at the Air Force Museum in Dallas. But its wings were so much longer, with these flared fingers, feathers at the tip of the wings, and it screeched again, opening its beak before it vanished behind our building. We looked at each other and ran inside to tell Mom, who didn't believe us, obviously, until later that night when it was on the news. Several people had reported seeing a massive eagle in the area. Some of them saying it looked different, but the result was the same. The next few weeks were pretty scary/boring because my mom didn't want us going out into the woods if we had a huge bird on the prey stalking the area. A sentiment I would later agree with when I was coming home from school one day and I heard a massive flap of wings. I hid under someone's porch and looked out to see this massive thing perched atop one of the buildings with a dead dog in its beak. It was a German Shepherd, and I watched as it dropped it on the roof and held it down with its talons and tore the dog apart with its curved beak, eating the chunks. I tried to move, but when I saw it look at me, I hid again until I heard it fly off, damaging the roof of the C-10 as some of the shingles came away and glass of the windows shattered. I then ran home, terrified for my life, and I became a recluse, demanding my mom drive me to and from school for the rest of the month. Being that she believed me, she understood. Finally, at the end of the month, my mom freaked out while we were eating dinner. It was like a scene from a book written by Stephen King and a movie directed by Kubrick. Everything was framed in such a way, the moon was full, the night was still, and my mom pointed out the window in terror as we beheld a massive bird fly across the moon and out of our lives forever, because that was the last time we saw the creature, Thunderbird or otherwise.